So far, we have covered various types of student-centered learning, which include the problem-based learning, project-based learning, problem-oriented project-based learning, case-based learning, and inquiry-based learning. These student-centered learning methods differ slightly among each other in terms of the subject used to trigger the discussions among the students. They encourage interactions among the students. The students are engaged with self-directed learning, and the entire learning process shall be explored by the students under the facilitations and guidance by the lecturers. This type of student-centered learning are advantageous not only in terms of the transfer of the knowledge, also in terms of building up the transferable skills, particularly the critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, teamwork skills, and communication skills. What you see in the academic industry, the lecturers are strongly encouraged to adopt the student-centered learning. Nonetheless, when it comes to the actual applications, there are still drawbacks among the lecturers. We still observe many lecturers tend to embrace the conventional teacher-centered learning more than the student-centered learning. There must be a reason for this. While introducing different types of the student-centered learning, we have been talking about the advantages of those learning methods. These are achievable provided that the lecturers have the competency and the capacity to facilitate the learning among the students, which at the same time the students are cooperative and have the ability to carry out self-directed learning in order to ensure the qualities of the learning. Even though it is nearly compulsory for all the pedagogy training to teach the lecturers how to carry out the student-centered learning, however, when it comes to the practical side, the outcome may not always be promising. This deter and discourage the lecturer to implement the student-centered learning as an alternative to the conventional teacher-centered learning. In these videos, we're going to talk about the limitations, risks, and the problem related to the student-centered learning. It would not be fair when talk about the student-centered learning, we only talk about the advantages and asking the lecturer to implement accordingly. We need to also aware of the limitations and the problems currently faced by various parties and see how we can overcome this if we wish to have the student-centered learning to be more well established and ultimately become a culture in terms of the learning in the higher educations. First, let us look from the perspective of the students. Since we are in the transition periods, slowly moving forward from the teacher-centered learning, transforming into the student-centered learning, the students has been quite familiar and comfortable with the conventional teacher-centered learning. Introducing the student-centered learning normally will give them some culture shock due to lacking of the relevant prior learning experience. Taking the typical student-centered learning as an example, the students will have to participate actively throughout the entire learning process, and a majority of them will require the students to study the topic, the case, the problems, the project independently, of course under the facilitations and the guidance by the lecturers. They are responsible for the learning. They will need to analyze and identify the problems as well as the learning objective or questions to be answered. And then they subdivide the tasks different students will do self-directed learning independently. After that, whatever the outcome, they will share their knowledge and the finding as acquired from the self-directed learning. This majority part of the learning process here require high levels of critical thinking, analytical, creative thinking, in-depth study among the students. Those things doesn't come overnight. Not only that, having them to be well versed of those transferable skills require the students to be well equipped with basic knowledge related to those topics. Now the skills and the knowledge, their relationships are more like the chicken and egg. They complement each other, and each of them are dependent on the other. You need prior knowledge related to the topic in order to encourage the critical thinking skills. And you need those critical thinking skills for you to explore new knowledge. Now, when the students are lacking the prior learning experience, not knowing how to deal with this kind of student-centered learning, normally they end up confused, not knowing what to do and where to start. This leads to anxiety and uncomfortable among the students. There will be psychological pressure as the students are asked to explore and work out something that they do not know. Having the difficulty to identify the important points may lead to the students deviated to the focus of the discussions. This can lead to the learning to become messier. And when you put too much responsibility towards the students throughout the teaching and learning activities, there are risks in terms of ensuring the quality of the learning, which may be diluted due to inadequate self-directed learning or limited knowledge of the students on the relevant topic. Without proper guidance and facilitations, the quality of learning cannot be ensured. Another problem related to the student-centered learning is that it is more time-consuming. If you see the typical process of the student-centered learning, you can actually structure out presentations of the case, problems, questions, project, and then analysis by the groups, formulating the learning objectives, problems, tasks, and etc. Dividing their tasks, topic, questions to be answered, doing self-directed learning, and then sharing their outcome, knowledge, findings, and etc. And lastly, discussions, summary, reflections by the lecturers. This is a long process, which both the lecturers and the students will have to be patient in completing the entire cycle of the student-centered learning. Now, if you compare with the teacher-centered learning, the lecturers can straight away enter this stage. But if you are using the student-centered learning, the students will have to experience through the entire process. You need time for the student-centered learning. And not many courses in the engineering program has the luxury time to have student-centered learning. Normally, the student-centered learning, if really being implemented, it will not be for the entire courses. Instead, it should be selectively over certain important topics or through the assignment. Due to the consumptions of the time, in comparison, you will realize that less content knowledge may be learned with the same amount of time, as a majority of the time has been invested in order to build up the transferable skills among the students. Now, if the main reason of conducting this student-centered learning is to generate the transferable skills, you do not really need the entire course to be in the mode of student-centered learning. You can have some focus topic which is compatible and that you feel important for the students to go through the student-centered learning. Now, what does it mean by the compatible? We are talking about the relevant topic have the possibility of being expanded towards the desired levels of complexity and also open-ended in nature for the students to experience through the entire learning process. Next, there may be problem with the group dynamic. This may compromise the effectiveness of the student-centered learning. You know that student-centered learnings are normally conducted in groups. Typically, the group member shall be within 5 persons. There shall be brainstorming, subdividing the topic and the tasks, and sharing of the knowledge among the students. The quality of learning shall be governed by the ability of the students to analyze the problems in depth, the quality of the brainstorming, the unique and interesting idea generated by the students, and etc. These are at the levels of understanding the problems of the project. When it comes to the divisions of the tasks, the commitment of the students as well as the knowledge gained by the students through self-directed learning will also affect the quality of the learning. If very little effort is being put into by the students, the gaining it will be quite limited. Students have nothing important or relevant or meaningful to share while presenting their findings. This is also subjected to the willingness of the students to share their knowledge. Some may not willing to share whatever they have learned, and even those who have the intention to share, they may also have the limitations in effectively deliver the knowledge and informations to the other members. Anything can go wrong somewhere in between the entire process here. That's why the lecturers need to be very competent and should closely monitor the learning process of the students, not only facilitating the students, provide supervisions and guidance to the students in order to secure the learning quality by the students is another important task by the lecturer. These are the problems and the risks related to the student-centered learning from the perspective of the students. How about from the perspective of the lecturers? The student-centered learning is also challenging to the lecturers, especially when it comes to creating the problems, scenarios, and the projects. You know that the student-centered learning, the main focus and the emphasis, it will be the interactions and the learning responsibility by the students. The problems, the project, the case, or the questions are just means to facilitate the interactions among the students. While designing the suitable problems, case, or the project, we will need to also consider about the learning activities as experienced by the students. There will be additional considerations other than the technical aspects. As compared with the teacher-centered learning, everything is straightforward. You can have all the informations delivered in the proper sequence at your own pace until all the knowledge and the information has been well delivered. However, when it comes to the student-centered learning, the sequence may not necessarily be from A to Z. It can also be in the mode of the reverse manner, or there could be some missing parts, or the informations and knowledge are given not in the proper sequence. Now, whichever the combinations of this may directly influence the quality of learning as well as the purpose of the learning. All this needs to be well designed. Due to the complexity and the uncertainty in terms of the response by the students, proper planning and simulations needs to be carried out, which sometimes may require trial and errors among the students in order to work out a successful student-centered learning activities. And this is actually time consuming, not only from the preparations for the problems and materials. Another risk or problems related to the instructor is that there will be various types of inquiries from the students along the process. You will need to allow creative thinking among the students, which sometimes the questions asked by the students or the problem encountered by the students may not be as what you have predicted. This will bring to the challenges to the lecturers to be more well prepared with the relevant technical knowledge to better guide the students. Not only that, not all the efforts done by the lecturer in terms of the preparations on the technical aspects shall eventually be fully utilized. A lecturer may have a thorough preparations regarding the case, the problems or the project. However, due to the limited ability and understanding of the students, not all shall be effectively delivered to the students. Now, the amount of effort invested onto that particular student-centered learning activity may not be equivalent to the intended outcome as predicted. This may also discourage the lecturers to deal with the student-centered learning. Since the student-centered learnings encourage the interactions, cooperations, and collaborations among the students, there may be group dynamic issues which require the lecturers to intervene. This leads to extra teaching notes to the lecturer to deal with all this. Another problem with the student-centered learning is the response from the students. An experienced lecturer will know the atmosphere of the classroom through observations in terms of the response of the students. Normally, the students do not like student-centered learning. They will prefer to be more spoon-fed instead of more actively involved with the learning. Students are well trained to sit there and listen and grab as much as they could instead of trying to explore themselves on the topic that they do not know. The levels of anxiety, it will be different. Students are more comfortable with the conventional teacher-centered learning, and when being asked to deal with the student-centered learning, normally there are resistance. An experienced lecturer can also tell the levels of participations of the students throughout the entire process of the student-centered learning. It is especially when the students in general having the limitations to study the topic, case, project in depth that may ultimately compromise the quality of the knowledge and informations. After a few rounds, students will pay less attention here and waiting for the final discussions, summaries and reflections by the lecturers. By looking at their eyes, you will know whether they are paying attention. Especially at the stage here when the students are doing presentations in front of the class. You will observe that most of the students, they are only concerned about their own presentation. They pay little attention onto the presentations done by the other students. As long as they done their presentations, they will need to wait until the lecturers to sum up the entire learning process. This may end up the only audience paying attention to the students' presentation here. It will be the lecturers alone, and this is not effective. And it is not worth wasting the time knowing the students will not pay attention to the presentations by their fellow friends. Worse even, there are also students done their presentations and pay little attention when the lecturers do the summaries. in their perceptions, they done their task, and that is a relief. Their entire learning process will stop after they done the presentations. Whatever comes after, those will be the initiative of the lecturers. All these are commonly encountered by the lecturers, and experienced lecturers can tell that. Now, based on the response, due to those limitations of the student-centered learning, many lecturers decided that the teacher-centered learning, it will be more effective, and at least getting the student to sit there and get all the important points delivered. Another problem encountered by the lecturers related to the student-centered learning, it would be the assessment. Personally, I feel this is the greatest drawback, discouraging the lecturers to adopt the student-centered learning for the delivery of a course. Why is it so? First, you need to know that when you want to adopt the student-centered learning, the most effective assessment method, it will not be the examinations. Examinations are normally used when you have full control in terms of the content learned by the students. In another word, the examinations is more suitable for the teacher-centered learning. In terms of the content, it is close-ended. Now, when it comes to the student-centered learning, the students will formulate their own learning objectives, their problems, their tasks, and all these are open-ended. The subsequent topic and focus of the study, as required from the students, through this self-directed learning, it will be very much dependent on the outcome of formulating those learning objectives, problems, tasks, and etc., which they are in open-ended nature. It will not be fair for the assessment to be carried out on whatever that the students are not being exposed prior to the exam. Now, knowing the examinations may not be the best method for the student-centered learning. Now, what are the options? How can we assess whether the students can keep up with the learning? Normally, the assessment, it should be something open-ended and subjective in nature. You may require rubrics, and it is unless the rubrics are well developed and the assessment is conducted regularly with close monitoring of each individual students. This is again something which is quite challenging. The reliability and accuracy of the rubrics sometimes is questionable, especially when it comes to the applications. I'm not saying that the rubrics shouldn't be used, but if you look at the reality from the practical aspects, you cannot totally eliminate the subjectivities when it comes to assessment by using rubrics. And then you will have issue with monitoring every single students. This will be quite challenging to the lecturers. Because of these problems, normally we will not have the student-centered learning to constitute an entire course. We still encourage a good mixture in terms of the various modes of assessment, as well as the teaching and learning methods. Personally, I will encourage the mixture between the teacher-centered learning and the student-centered learning. The teacher-centered learning may take a larger portions as compared to the student-centered learning. That is from my personal perspectives. I need the teacher-centered learning to make sure that the entire syllabus has been well covered at the appropriate depth in order to secure the quality of the learning by the students, which at the same time, the teacher-centered learning shall not be taking all the student learning time for one particular course. For the assessment, there will be examinations and tests to cover the syllabus of that particular course. And then I would take another part of the course to have the student-centered learning. For example, through assignments and projects. Through the student-centered learning, my ultimate goal here is for the students to build up the transferable skills and apply the knowledge learned through the lectures. This helps them to strengthen their understanding and also extend beyond what has been learned, so that we will have all this covered within the course. As for the assessment, rubrics shall be used, and it should not carry the large portions of the total marks for the course due to the subjectivities natures of the assessment. With that, the combinations of these two shall cover the breadth and depth in terms of the knowledge, as well as provide the opportunity to the students to build up the relevant skills. And this is what I feel a more optimized and appropriate way to use the student-centered learning.